countless examples that we're experiencing relating to climate change and the impact on everything, and how do you measure it? Can we save the planet?
We have to. So I think we are at a very interesting, critical inflection point in the commercial real estate industry. You have 60% of the Fortune 500 have issued climate pledges. 15 municipalities across the US have mandated building emissions reductions. And then now you have the SEC, who has come out this year and said every publicly traded company now has to report on scope 1 through 3 emissions. Still need to unpack what that means. But we are now, as landlords in the commercial real estate industry, in this pressure cooker, facing carrots and sticks at all fronts. We have our tenants, our LPs, our regulators, insurers, and lenders, and any other stakeholder, all asking for the same thing: you must decarbonize. So taking a step back, what is our responsibility as commercial real estate? So 40% of global carbon emissions comes from commercial real estate. And while you see pollution rising into the air from your construction sites, actually 75% of the problem in commercial real estate is existing older vintage buildings that are producing the majority of carbon emissions. And so what does this mean? We have to retrofit 85% of the world's building stock in order to achieve net zero by 2050. That is an overwhelmingly staggering amount of real estate that we need to tackle. And we can't just knock down existing buildings and build new ones either, because that's not going to solve the carbon problem either. And so we're excited about what we're building at Cambio. Sorry, shameless plug. But our product integrates with buildings and your meter systems and your billing data in order to provide you with a carbon emissions analytics view, so you know what your baseline carbon footprint is. That's just the first part of the journey when you think about sustainability. The next question is, what do I actually do? My GRESB score is 80. What does that mean? How do I improve? My carbon footprint is 2 million tons. What does that actually mean? So we are taking a data science-based approach to how large-scale commercial portfolios think about retrofitting. So say you have 100 buildings across Canada. We can use ranking algorithms and simple data science techniques to say, from 1 to 100, actually, these are your bottom performers from a carbon standpoint. Here's where you should actually be undertaking retrofits in your portfolio. Send building engineers to those bottom 30 this year, another 20 next year, and really mapping out that plot towards net zero. So I think your question was, can we measure it? Can we save the planet? I say yes. Let's start with the basics. Let's measure carbon to start.
It's interesting. We talked earlier today, coming out of the whole Enron situation, whatever year that was, Michael.
You're asking me? I can't remember yesterday.
You and I were around, and it was really IFRS that came out of that, where if you published financial statements, they had to be of a certain sort, and the SEC regulated how that was. And when this whole carbon measurement situation really started to take hold, there were a variety of different ways of keeping score. And so IFRS has actually been mandated with sister organizations to be the data kind of score keeper. And I think as a base, if you can't measure it, it's very hard to know what it is that you're doing. So I think, Leia, your perspective is quite valuable. So let's unpack that a little bit further and talk about value, because yes, we are here to save the planet and have a return on society, but we do have capital that's deployed. We hear a lot about greenwashing. We hear a lot about diversity targets, but not inclusivity. And there's lots of bad corporate governance everywhere, sadly. How is ESG being priced in the marketplace or not? Michael, you want to take that on as a start?
I'm going to start it because it is the hot topic du jour in the US, where some of you may know some US states have prohibited their pension plans from investing with any fund manager who has an ESG scorecard. What? Yes, prohibited. You might surmise that those are Republican states, and you'd be correct. But I would start on the risk side of things. If you think about ESG as a risk management tool, certainly the E side of that, physical risk, climate risk, flooding, extreme heat, drought, all of those things. That's a pretty good risk filter just on its own. So the physical risk side of E. The transition risk side of E, which is the risk that you can't lower the carbon output of your building, the transition risk side of it. We're in a carbon tax country here. That's a risk. Otherwise, you'll be paying more tax or you'll have to play catch up later. So if you think about ESG as a risk management metric first, I think that's a useful place to start. Maybe if you were you're academics here, you were doing some research, maybe you would look at, okay, well, companies that have a really good ESG score, did they earn a higher amount of money per square foot of building or for some other metric? And you might start to see some positive evidence. Avis has just published a paper released a couple of weeks ago from the other university, Avis Devine, that really does find a value improvement from high ESG score buildings to non-ESG score buildings.